There's a road that every man must walk, a road that begins clear, bright, and full of promise. But somewhere along the way, the light fades, the signs disappear, and the silence gets loud. You start to wonder, God, where are you? Why can't I see the way forward? You pray, but heaven seems quiet. You move, but nothing changes. And deep down, you ask yourself a question you've been avoiding. Did I miss something? Maybe you've been chasing purpose. Maybe you've been searching for meaning, guidance, success, but no matter how far you walk, you still feel lost. And what if the reason isn't that God left you, but that you stopped trusting Him? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. That's the verse we all quote. But few actually live. Because trusting God isn't hard when life makes sense. It's hard when it doesn't. When everything falls apart. When the door closes, the dream dies, the plan fails, and you can't explain why. And yet, that's exactly where God is teaching you wisdom. He's not hiding the truth from you. He's hiding it for you, waiting until your pride is quiet enough to hear it. So, let's go back to the ancient words of Solomon. A father speaking to his son, teaching him the kind of wisdom that modern men have forgotten. Not the kind that impresses, but the kind that saves. Because maybe, just maybe, the real reason you're still lost is that you're still trying to lead. Long before we built our cities, our noise, our screens and schedules, there was a father, sitting with his son under the shade of a tree, teaching him how to live. No riches, no fame, no armor, just wisdom. Raw, divine, ancient. That's where the book of Proverbs begins. A father teaching his child.
My son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commands in your heart, for they will prolong your life many years and bring you peace and prosperity.
In other words, he wasn't talking about knowledge. He was talking about alignment, a life that moves with God instead of against Him. Because the man who forgets God's ways doesn't just lose his faith, he loses his direction. So Solomon continues,
Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart.
Did you catch that? Not on your phone, not on your wall, on your heart. Because wisdom doesn't start in the mind. It starts in the surrender of the heart. It's not about being clever. It's about being connected, faithful, rooted, steady when everyone else is shaking. And then Solomon gives the secret, the verse that defines every man of God who truly walks with Him.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight.
That one sentence has guided kings, warriors, broken men, and lost sons. But today it's just a quote, a line on a coffee mug, a verse on social media. We've memorized the words, but we've forgotten the weight. Because trusting God isn't a verse, it's a fight. A daily surrender of control, ego, and fear. That's why Solomon didn't say, trust the plan. He said, trust the Lord. Because sometimes the plan breaks so the man can bend. Sometimes God lets you lose your way so you can finally find His. We like control. We like plans, structure, guarantees. We want to know where we're going and when we'll arrive. But God doesn't lead like a GPS. He leads like a shepherd. And the shepherd doesn't always explain the path. He just says, follow me. That's the tension of Proverbs 3. It's not about understanding everything. It's about obeying anyway. Because real trust isn't proven when the path is clear. It's proven when you can't see 10 feet ahead. You think you're lost. You think something went wrong. But maybe God isn't late. You're just impatient. He hides the next step, not to punish you, but to teach you faith in motion. He's not building your plan. He's building your dependence. That's why Solomon didn't write, "Trust in the Lord with half your heart." He said, "with all your heart." Because partial trust is still control disguised as faith. When you trust halfway, you obey halfway. When you obey halfway, you receive halfway. And then you wonder why your path still feels crooked.
In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight.
Notice that God doesn't show you the straight path first. He makes it straight after you walk in obedience. You walk, then he aligns. You obey, then he opens. You surrender, then he reveals. So the path isn't straight when you start. It becomes straight because you trust it. That's the hidden lesson. God doesn't give you clarity before faith. He gives you clarity through faith. Every step of obedience becomes a stone in the road that wasn't there before. And one day, you look back and realize he was guiding you the whole time. It wasn't that you were lost. It was that you were learning to let go, learning to walk blind, learning to trust the hand that never stopped holding you. Because what if the real reason you still feel lost is that you keep asking God to explain what he wants you to trust? There's a moment in every man's life when God takes his hands off the steering wheel. Not because he wants you to crash, but because he wants you to learn to let go. That's when trust becomes real. That's when Proverbs 3 stops being a verse and becomes a battlefield. Because trusting God isn't peaceful at first. It feels like falling. It feels like failure. It feels like silence when you need an answer the most. And in that silence, pride dies, fear speaks, and faith is born. You ask, "God, what are you doing?" And heaven answers exactly what you prayed for. Because you said, "Lord, make me wise." And wisdom doesn't come through comfort. It comes through surrender. You said, "Lord, I want to trust you." And trust is never taught in safety. It's learned in uncertainty. You said, "Lord, lead my path." And to lead your path, he had to break your map. Maybe that's why God allows closed doors, to protect you from rooms that weren't meant for you. Maybe that's why he removes people, to teach you that peace doesn't depend on presence. Maybe that's why he delays answers, to prove that faith grows in silence, not in applause.
Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones.
That's not poetry. That's process. Because God isn't trying to make you comfortable. He's trying to make you complete. When you finally stop fighting for control, you start walking in confidence. Not because you know what's next, but because you know who walks beside you. That's the wisdom hidden in trust. God doesn't ask for your strength. He asks for your surrender, because surrender is strength. So if your life feels like it's spinning out of control, if everything you built is shaking, don't panic. You're not losing. You're learning. You're not falling apart. You're falling into his plan. And maybe now you see it. You were never really lost. You were being led through a fog so that you could finally stop trusting your sight. Because God never needed you to understand the plan. He needed you to trust the planner. All along, he was straightening the path you thought was broken. Every detour, every delay, every unanswered prayer wasn't punishment. It was protection, redirection, preparation. The world teaches you to fight for control, but the Word teaches you to surrender for peace. That's the real wisdom of Proverbs 3.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding.
It's not a command to figure things out. It's an invitation to let go. So tonight, before you make another plan, before you chase another answer, before you try to fix what's already in God's hands, take a breath, close your eyes, and whisper, "Lord, I trust you, even here." Because that whisper can move heaven faster than your worry ever could. When you trust Him, you don't need to see the whole road. You just need to know who's walking it with you. So let Him lead. Let Him redirect. Let Him heal what you broke and guide what you can't. And when you finally stop trying to be the author of your story, you'll realize you were never writing it alone. If this message spoke to your spirit, don't just scroll away. Take this as your sign to stay close to the Word. Comment below, "Lord, I trust you." Let the world see that there are still men and women who walk by faith and not by sight. And if you want to keep walking this journey with us, subscribe to Christ Revealed. Because every week we uncover another chapter, another truth hidden in Scripture, another reminder that God still speaks to those who are willing to listen. So don't let this be the last time you hear His voice. Join us, grow with us, and let the Word lead your way.